New Buddhaware Dhamma Talks. Geoff Hunt presents a talk on some aspect of the Buddha's teaching.
All right, what I'd like to talk about is based on a metaphor or a simile to make a point about the way we lead our lives, the way our minds work, and that is the metaphor of a flypaper. Now you're probably asking, what is a flypaper? So just to remind you, some of you know, but some of you may have forgotten, flypaper is a kind of a piece of tape which has adhesive or glue. It's sticky, and it's used in kitchens, places like that, and flies are attracted to the smell, and they stick, and then they can't get off. These days, with modern technology, we've found very sophisticated ways of executing insects using blue lights and electrical currents and so on. We're very good at using technology for killing things. So flypapers have gone a little bit out of fashion, but you can still buy them actually. And in many developing countries, you'll see people use flypapers. So that's quite an interesting but rather sad spectacle to see a flypaper hanging there with insects stuck on it and trying to get off, and of course they can't. So these insects vary from tiny little midges, which don't stand a chance really, up to quite large things like perhaps a wasp, or occasionally something even bigger, which really puts up quite a fight. And this is a metaphor for our minds, that our minds are like flypapers and they're sticky. Our minds are sticky, and various things come along, thoughts, memories, feelings, disappointments, etc., and stick to the mind, and may stay there for a very long time, giving a lot of trouble. So some of the things that stick in our minds are very trivial, day-to-day things, just like the tiny midges that come along and attracted to the flypaper and stick. Can't move at all for a little while, but after a while they just sort of seem to get absorbed into the flypaper. You don't really notice them anymore. And that's like some of our thoughts or our hurts, or maybe even some of our happy moments. Quite small, quite trivial, get absorbed somewhere, and eventually probably forgotten. Then there are, slightly bigger things that come along, which perhaps either upset us or perhaps excite us in some way. So you can imagine maybe the fly that is attracted to the to the flypaper, and that represents craving, I suppose. The mind always wants more. So the fly is attracted, you see, to the flypaper, like candles attract moths until they singe their wings. Pretty painful, I should imagine. So a fly comes along, that's a middle size, could be a middle size worry, upset, or excitement, or whatever. And that makes a bit more of an impact. So when a housefly lands on the flypaper, it buzzes around, making quite a noise, quite a fuss, and disturbs all the other things that are stuck on the flypaper. So the bigger insects that come along, like a wasp, right? That's when you have a major upset or whatever comes along in life, and the mind sticks to it, and it's very difficult to let go of it, isn't it? It might keep you awake at night. That fly goes on, or the wasp goes on buzzing about, and it'll go on buzzing on, while it's stuck onto the flypaper, agitating the whole flypaper, like your whole mind gets flustered. Meanwhile, everything else that might have upset you in the last few weeks, months, years also seems to get re-agitated by this pesky wasp, which is the recent event. But just as all the midges and other smaller flies and things also now they all start up. We thought they were dead, but the wasp that is now stuck there, doing its best to get off again, is agitating everything. And sometimes that happens to us, doesn't it? Something comes along and upsets us, and it seems to agitate everything else. It's like a relationship that goes wrong, and then you lie there at night thinking, all my relationships have gone wrong, and you start remembering all sorts of other things, and that's how the metaphor is meant to work as well. It's a metaphor for the stickiness of our minds and how difficult it is to let go of thoughts, memories, especially when there's some emotional quality. Occasionally you get something totally monstrous coming along. I remember when I lived in Africa, happened once that a small wall gecko, which is a kind of a little lizard, which is semi-transparent, was attracted by the flies on the paper, and of course, being a rather small gecko, found himself stuck on the flypaper. I think there must be a moral in this somewhere. Don't mull over your memories too much. Don't get, like he was attracted to the other flies and then found himself stuck. If you carry a grudge, it's a bit like dwelling upon the previous things that have happened. Like the gecko was attracted to the other insects, right? So now your mind is attracted to things that are already stuck in your mind, and then you might start dwelling on it. And you know how it is if you dwell on something? It can get bigger and bigger and bigger, and you find yourself getting angry or getting resentful or whatever it is, when you just started off quite a nice day, sat down for a cup of tea, and this thought pops into your mind or this memory, and before you know what, your mood is starting to change. This is the story of human life, isn't it, really? But the Buddha's teaching, we are meant to become aware of these things, and we become aware of how the mind works. So that's a bit like learning how the flypaper works. And once you know that the mind is sticky, you're aware of that, then you're very careful as to what it attaches to and how it attaches to it. Attached to it very lightly, but not attached to it very strongly, or not attached to it at all, if it's something that you know from experience is harmful to you or disturbing to you. So if you were a fly or a wasp or something, flying about, landing on things, well, there will be some things which are definitely sticky, but there are some things which are not. And I think that's how we'd like our minds to be, non-sticky. Now, what would the mind be like? What metaphor could we use for a mind that is free of this stickiness, or at least less sticky? Well, there are two essential things here, aren't there? First of all, there's the awareness of how your own mind works, and that it will stick to certain things. Right, so that's like perhaps a leaf on a tree that is sensitive to what is landing on it or what is going on around it, any touch. So in other words, it's a kind of an awareness. I don't think a leaf has awareness, but a leaf can have sensitivity definitely. Just think of how, say, a runner bean twirls around the stick. It's obviously sensitive to touch. So awareness or sensitivity to one's own mind, not to other people's minds, of course, to your own mind, but then the power of letting go. What would that correspond to? Well, imagine a leaf that is very shiny or waxy, like a laurel leaf, for example. You know the laurel shrub, very shiny leaves. They are sort of, well, the technical word I suppose is hydrophobic. That is, if water drops onto it, it'll just run off without making the leaf wet. Right? Now imagine that your mind was a bit like that. Things land on it, but your mind can't be harmed. Your mind notes what is going on. It is aware of what is going on. It sees the attractiveness of some things. It sees the, if you like, the danger in other things. It sees that perhaps attractive things can be more dangerous to you than things that are not attractive, or that you would even be repelled by. We always think the things that repel us are the dangerous things. Of course, it's the things that attract us that can be the dangerous things to us. So, could the mind become like the shiny, glossy surface of a laurel leaf, that whatever lands on it just flows off? Well, I think so. That's one of the things the Buddha teaches. But your mind has to learn to be sensitive, learn to be aware, up to a point where you even begin to question what is this thing we keep talking about, the mind? Where is this mind? What is this mind? Well, that comes a little later in our discussion, but let's assume you do have something called mind. We don't know where it is, but we have a mind. That's the way we speak, okay? So we need to learn to let go. Now, how does this, being practical, how is this meant to really work? Well, it's about getting into a certain kind of habit where when things come into the mind, one is aware that something is coming into the mind and what its nature is. If you develop that up to a point, then you will also, a corollary of that is that one can also let go of that thing. In other words, it's almost as though you say to yourself, right, there you are again, not interested in you, just drop off my mind, please. And then you divert your mind to something else. You can do that. And I think we all know that we can do it. It's when things are really sticky, when you've got that great clod of a wasp landing with all 6 feet on your rather sticky mind, it could be a little bit difficult to brush it off. Something's going to get hurt. Either the flypaper is going to get broken, or the wasp's legs are going to break off, and that's how we feel, isn't it? When things stick in the mind. But it is. I can say from personal experience that you can actually just kind of. It's not a question of rejecting something so much as not allowing it to stick. Because if you try to judge it and repel it, in a way you're encouraging it. The thing is, I best express it as turn away from it. It's like if somebody were threatening you, one response might be to, even quite a mild response would be to say to that person, you can't harm me, I don't care what you do, etc. It's like rejecting that person, which could well inflame them. Some people are inflamed even by your apologizing to them, surprisingly. But another thing you could do is just, not say anything. Turn away from the situation. Once the eye contact is lost, you get this with wild animals actually, the eye contact is broken, and then they're less likely to attack you. So it's like you teach the mind to do that with a lot of things that is a product of your own mind. is you just turn away from that and get the mind onto something that is more fruitful, or at least harmless. Now, I know it's easy to say this, and you're probably thinking, yeah, but some things are really difficult. Yeah, some things are really difficult. But the more you exercise the mind in this turning away, the stronger you will become at turning away. You see? So that's a very powerful thing to be able to do, and it's an important stage in developing mindfulness, to be able to have this insight into the mind and its stickiness, and to turn away from things which you know are going to stick and are going to make a huge fuss when they do stick. So it's like saying, I'm not interested in that, and the mind goes over this way. You could try this, when falling off to sleep, because that's often, people tell me, and I noticed it with myself, that's often when the mind starts kind of reviewing the day. And reviewing the day, something might come in, especially if somebody's said something unpleasant or something bad's happened. And, that's the fly wanting to settle on the flypaper. It is. And you just let it settle and it will stick. First of all, one leg will stick, and then a second leg will stick. And then it'll start flapping around, but it can't get off. And you could be awake all night, or at least for an hour or two, worrying yourself about it. Well, the thing is not to let it land in the first place. Just turn away from it and put the mind on something different. This is important for dealing actually with many conditions as well, such as obsessive, compulsive behavior or thoughts, anxieties and worrying, even depression. It's been shown that it does work. But it is a technique, and one has to fine-tune it, and one has to persist with it. The Buddha, of course, wants to go beyond that, to, if you like, use that power to look into the nature of ourselves, because, as I said just a minute ago, but you might not have seen the point of it, is, yes, but what is this mind we are talking about? Or what is this self we are talking about? Because we assume it's somehow a thing that's inside me, and then in assuming it's a thing, I'm separating it off from the rest of the world, and a whole bunch of other anxieties start from that. But let's take things one at a time. First of all, we just need to understand this technique of mentally letting go, and understand that the mind is sticky. That is the way it works. It couldn't work any other way, it couldn't function if it weren't sticky. The trouble is that all sorts of things stick to it that will be harmful to you. So, it's as though you could say, well, I'll let you stick to me, that's okay. That's maybe a pleasant thought forming in your mind about something you'd like to do for somebody, for example. Right, okay, where's the harm in that? You can stay. But that nasty memory, or whatever it is, the moment it comes up, buzzing around, saying, no, you're not going to land on my flypaper. Okay. So I just wanted to put across this idea of a flypaper, which I invented and put in book 2 of the New Buddha Way books. And perhaps it's helpful. So I'll just ask you what you make of it. Is it a useful metaphor, that?
I think it's great.
It's very good.
Yeah.
I think it's really good.
And practically?
Absolutely spot on.
New Buddha Way lets go of East and West and starts afresh in the life we have now. For more information, visit www.newbuddhaway.org.